It's time to down tools for a bit. Welcome to the ToolShed, the influential podcast for anyone and everyone involved in the building industry. Here's your host, Mick Hawes.
Hey there, before we kick off, I want to share a really important thought. 71% of you who watch this channel frequently don't subscribe. So if you've enjoyed any video you've ever watched, can you do me a favor and hit the subscribe button? It helps the channel more than you think, and the bigger the channel gets, the bigger the guests get. So let's go. Hey folks, welcome to another episode of the ToolShed podcast. On this episode, I'm speaking to Sam McEwen from Biz Wisdom. So we're going to be talking about all things SEO, branding, marketing, lead generation. This podcast could go on for 2 days, maybe longer. We'll see how it goes. But before we get stuck into that cool stuff, I want to remind you that if you are a residential builder who's sort of done at least 10 laps around the sun in your business and you're still struggling a little financially, you know, you're struggling and you've got to rob Peter to pay Paul when it's bass time, or you find it difficult to get away from your business without worrying that you come back to a pile of ashes or something, we've got a really cool tool that we've created for you. It's called the Builder's Freedom Readiness Scorecard. It'll take you 2 minutes to fill it out. Based on the score you get when you fill out the questions, you'll get some like a state of the nation, where you're at in your business at the moment, but also some very specific actions you can take in both the financial and the time space to be able to improve your ability to get some more free time and get away from the financial stress. So it's a good investment of a couple of minutes. So Sam, he's just sitting right there. I didn't know where he was, but he told me he was in Melbourne, and I couldn't find it anywhere on the website. And he said it's because we're everywhere. So welcome. It's this is a really exciting topic, I think, because it's quite fast-paced. It's something that most builders in particular don't understand, don't want to do themselves, would love to duck shove it off to somebody else, but that's not necessarily a good thing. Like, they do need to get involved at some level, but we'll get into all of the details of that. What I'd really like to find out first is your backstory. So how did you end up in this space doing, you know, the marketing, SEO, branding, all of the stuff that you cover?
Yeah, lovely. Well, firstly, thank you for inviting me into your tool shed today. It's a great honor and privilege to be here talking about marketing, talking about building. So, yeah, look, I mean, I think I've spent my entire career in marketing and sales, and I started my life in client-side marketing and then moved over to the agency side, and was lucky enough to be sort of here in one of the early Australian agencies that were sort of dealing with SEO and, digital marketing and those kinds of things when it was new and fresh and all those kinds of things. So I've more or less spent 20 years in marketing, but and about 12 or so years ago, went and started this agency, Biz Wisdom, with the idea of just really helping small businesses, and that took us down an interesting path. But we sort of, fell into the residential building market, working with a number of really well-known and established builders here in Melbourne and now nationally. So, yeah, sort of, and it's, it's a wonderful, wonderful industry. I think really diverse as you mentioned, from big companies with massive marketing teams and super sophisticated marketing to, single person operators and everyone in between. And of course, everyone loves real estate, right? So it's a fun industry to be in part of. Yeah,
excellent. So, in some information you shot through prior to this conversation, you mentioned that you're just about to release a 2025 State of the Nation report on the building industry, and also it says here you did some other work on you benchmarked the SEO performance of over 700 residential builders' websites. That would have
that would have been, that would have been a heap of fun.
Well, I was like a pig in mud, but with that, so I've had a ball. But yeah, look, really really interesting timing. We've got the industry report is probably days away from coming out.
Yeah.
We've been sitting on this analysis that we did of 700 residential builders in Australia for a couple of months now, actually. But talking to some of our clients about it first, and we're about to release both of these things into the market, and I think both of them paint a really interesting picture about the industry, where it's at right now, and some of the challenges that we're about to face. So lots of interesting things I can share with you about both those things.
Yeah. Well, what's sort of piquing your interest most? What do we need to be aware of? Because I mean, I've been doing this for far too long. It's like I think I'm in my fourth decade of doing this coaching gig, and there are just some fundamental things that I've always noticed, and I don't know, that we just don't seem to be making much progress with it. Like, for instance, when you were talking about the 700 residential builders' websites. When we first started specifically with builders, I had a very clunky marketing system, and it was fundamentally going onto the yellow pages online, clicking on their website and having a look at their website to see what it looked like, what it felt like, what it smelt like, what it had on it. And the big blinding flash of the obvious to me is pretty much every website, and it would be a standout exception if I found a builder's website that actually spoke about the fears, frustrations, wants and aspirations of their potential prospect.
Yeah.
That was all about them. We are us here. We do this. We use stainless steel, blah, 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 and it was all about us, But what have you noticed? What's piquing your interest with the research that you've just been doing?
Yeah, look, it's an interesting one. I mean, I think what you touch on there is true of all industries. I think it's not just the building industry. Like for many of us, particularly if we're owner operators or we're small to medium businesses, we started a business because we're good at our trade, right? And then we have that rude shock. I'm sure you've come across this, where we realize that maybe it's not our building skills that are the most pivotal or most important aspect of our success or otherwise of our business. It's actually whether we're good at sales and marketing, and that, I come across this across every industry, and that can be quite a shock, because great, some people have natural talent, they love getting in front of social media or whatever it is, building their websites, but most of us just want to get on with our job, right?
Yeah.
So I think but the difficult truth is, when you're looking at websites, that like most people who are building a new home, they might only do it once in their life, maybe a couple of times. They don't have experience choosing a builder. They don't know what they're doing. And what we're looking for as humans is we're looking for signals that suggest whether this company that I'm about to engage is a quality company or not. And, probably, it's probably not the most efficient or effective way to do it, but we look at a website and we go, okay, well, is this website of high quality? Does it look expensive? Is it up to date? Does it communicate all these things that you spoke about as a signal to the quality of a builder, which probably in reality the two are completely misaligned, right? The ability to build a great home and to provide a great service as a builder probably has very little to do with whether you can create a great website. But with no other information to go on as consumers, that's what we're stuck with. We have to sort of say, well, yeah, okay, if they're having a great website and it's up to date, well, they must be making enough money to have a small marketing team, and they must be successful. And if they're successful, they must be good at building. And and these are the sort of leaps that we have to make. So I think it's a difficult challenge, to sort of say, well, maybe what you invest in your marketing and your website is more important than how well you are at building a home potentially. So I mean, I think that's one thing that we just see in the market. It's a challenge, and it's hard, particularly if you're a small operation, to to know all the the things that you need to know to create a great website. And this is what our SEO report showed to us, that the really quite surprising, I think, breakthrough from us from an SEO perspective was that, I'm trying to find the exact stat here really quickly, 85.9% of the websites that we looked at had no presence at all in Google, in search. So they were not visible at all, couldn't be found, unless you're typing in their brand name, right? And even then, maybe not. That's massive. And then beyond that, there was like 1.9% of the websites that we looked at that we deemed to be performing well. There was a further, exactly the same number, 1.9% of those that that were strong, but we deemed to be underperforming, and then the vast majority rolled into either no presence at all or very slim presence. So clearly you can see all of those things I discussed are playing out in the market. The majority of builders are struggling to effectively communicate their business online.
Yeah. Reading through parts of your website, I got a sense that you felt that building relationships is really critical. And when you look at a lot of websites, they seem to come across quite impersonal. There's no picture of the people. You can't get to know the people. It's just facts and figures and what have you on the website. In your mind, how important is it in this day and age to create content, like just really basic content? It's just this person, no airs and graces. You're not putting on the Hollywood smile and scripted and teleprompters and all of this sort of stuff. Just walking around with your phone talking about maybe your philosophical approach to your business, or this story, how we helped this customer, or this problem that this customer had, and just really relevant stuff to the people that are looking for that service. They're not a customer yet; they're a suspect. They're not even a prospect, and they're in that kind of mindset. They've got this fear going on. They've got this confusion and, geez, what do we do? And hesitation, all that sort of stuff. I'm basically answering my own bloody question, but I want your opinion on it as well. I just think it's so important to get on the socials and what have you, and just talk to your camera as if you're talking to someone with empathy and understanding from their perspective.
Yeah.
Rather than just having a website. We've got a website. And it's like, who gives a shit?
Yeah, look, I think like it's important. I can take that in a slightly different direction, actually, or add something maybe different to that. Because for sure, for sure that's good activity. Yeah.
Yeah.
But I'd put it like this. There's two things that we want to do when we brand our business. One, we do want to look like we fit into the segment. So we do want to look like we fit into the industry, but more important than that is we want to stand out from our competitors, and we want to be different. Now, interestingly, some of the things that came through the report, particularly over the last few years, right? Like it hasn't been a great time for builders over the last sort of 6 years. There's a lot of very well-known builders that have gone bust, and the market's really aware of that. So there's a sentiment in the market that you go for the big known brand, and so that's great if you're a big known brand, but if you're not, then how do you compete with that? How do you compete with the fears of like, why should I choose you over this big brand? We know what the deficiencies are with the big brand, but hey, at least they're big, at least they're stable, at least they're safe, right? So it's the safe option in the minds of the consumer. So, one of those really great ways that you can stand out is to start to express your personality, exactly as you said, your philosophies and those kinds of things, and creating great content and just being yourself and say, well, look, this is what you get from me. This is how I approach things. Look around here on the site. Here's a common problem that comes up, when we talk to our customers, and this is our approach to it. And this is what we do. And, so all of that is really great. And if you've got if you've got the ability and you're comfortable to do that, then absolutely it's one of the best tactics you can provide. But I guess the other message I'd say is it's not the only way to stand out.
No.
It's a very good way. It's an easy way. It's a way that everyone's got a phone in their pocket. They can hold it up and they can talk, and it allows people to connect with you and say, okay, you're my person, right? Your values, the way you approach your business really resonate with me as a consumer. And I feel now that I've got some trust in you, that you're going to do the right thing by me, and that I can choose you over one of the, safer options, which we know are not actually safer. So that's great. But I'd also say, there's a lot of this kind of messaging at the moment. There's a lot of people saying, oh, you've got to get in there. You've got to post every day, if not 3 times a day, and you've got to do these kinds of things. And if you're not comfortable, if that's not you, or if that's not the way you present well, then don't do it, because there's lots of other tactics that can be effective. But the important thing is you're standing out. You're giving people a reason to, because one of the mistakes we make when we don't do things like that is we go, okay, well, let's look at one of those big leading players and let's make our website look just like them. But the problem is you're not them. So all you're going to do is look like an inferior version of a big player. Why would we go with an inferior version of a big player? So you have to be unique. You've got to stand for something, and you've got to stand out.
Oh, I thought you were going to say something even more profound than that. I'm sitting there waiting, and there are other ways of doing it, and that's what I was expecting you to launch into. So, please continue.
I mean, they are, and so for me, I think there's sort of two ways that you can break that down. What you've described there is very common at the moment. It's like creating organic content, and just putting content out there, letting people connect with you, and and those kinds of things. That's awesome. But with any kind of marketing, with any kind of advertising, it costs something, and it's either going to cost your time or it's going to cost money. Now, if you've got the time and you've got the personality and you think that that's in your skill set to do that content, then that's wonderful. But the other side of it, which is actually probably my preferred method, is if it's not time, well, you can spend money on that and advertising, and the downside, I think, of that content is time is money anyway, right? And if you're spending hours every single day, doing reels and editing content and doing all these kinds of things, then what's that taking you away from? Whereas one really good ad can drive an incredible amount of leads into your business. And so yes, okay, then you've got to pay to promote that ad in media spend. But if you get that great ad that really works, that opens the floodgates of leads, well, it's a very simple it's a very simple calculation to sort of go, well, great, we ran that ad, we got this number of leads, we know that we'll convert of those leads over time so many into new customers. How many customers do we want? What's our ambitions? And you can scale that a lot more easily than you can with the sort of content creation method. So, for me, I like to build structures, and depending on where you're at as a business, whether you're starting from, you've never done any marketing before, we need one channel, we need to keep our advertising costs at the absolute lowest they can possibly be until we can see some return on that investment, or, a big multi-channel campaign that's going to work really effectively. There's all sorts of sort of degrees that campaigns can work, but the obvious ones are that we employ for the bulk of the clients that we work with is, meta ads. Facebook and Instagram is still one of the best ways to get high volumes of leads at a really low cost. Again, you're talking, I said one ad, but you're talking maybe a selection of 4 or 5 ads that they get refined over time, that are then just run and updated, from time to time. Google, there's a lot of talk about AI at the moment, but Google is still the most powerful way to capture business. As I said, 85.91% of websites have no presence at all on Google. So, taking that presence from nothing to something, of all marketing channels, the fact that somebody has stopped what they were doing and said to themselves, the most important thing I can do right now is perform a search for a new builder, that's pretty high intent. If you can be one of those builders that are found during that research phase, then of course that's going to grow your business and going to be really, really powerful. And then there's a whole range of things that I think like that's the sort of table stakes. Something like 60% of all advertising spend is spent with just Google and Meta. So they're the sort of entry point, but that's also where all your competitors are. So, more and more, some of our more established clients are breaking out of just, Facebook, Instagram and Google and moving into doing things like podcast advertising, Spotify advertising, connected TV, which is a really powerful way of giving that impression, at least, that you're a really big player in very specific markets. Most of our builders have specific postcodes or regions that they want to, that their most desirable customers come from. So we're able to sort of today with digital technology, we're able to pinpoint TV ads to just a handful of postcodes and do those kinds of things. So, content marketing and just providing content's great if you don't have an advertising budget, but you're going to have to give up a lot of your time. There's a lot of these other tactics that can be really powerful and consistently effective for residential builders.
So something you said at the start of that was a good ad, like creating a good ad. Can we unpack what makes a good ad? Because there's lots of ads, and there's lots of shit ads, and then there's probably what we might consider a good-looking ad, but maybe it doesn't perform. So what are some of the questions that you need to ask and of the business owner, and what are some of the suggestions that you make to a business owner to be able to give yourself the best chance of creating a good ad that performs?
Yeah, 100%. And look, the unfortunate, answer to the start of that is a little boring, but I'll get to all the exciting stuff, I promise. But
boring is good.
Yeah, 35 years in coaching, I'm sure that you would agree with me when I say, it's not some tactic, it's not some amazing thing that only came into the market a year ago. The fundamentals are always true and will always be true. So, most ads fail, in my experience, because they weren't tied to a clear objective. So the first thing's got to be is, what's your objective here? Are you trying to get leads? Are you trying to close people instantly in the ad?
Asking them to marry you on the first date.
Exactly. Are you, what kind of lead? Are you doing extensions? Are you a knockdown and rebuild? Are you looking for, and so that's the next stage. It's like, okay, well, what's our objectives? But who is our audience? What are they? And this again, it sort of ties back to your previous question of like, why are our websites all sort of like, oh yeah, we use this timber, or we use, we do this, we do this. It's like, and this is again this is true of all markets and all industries that I work with, is that we often just forget the simple thing, which is talk to our customers. What were their pains? What were their desires? What were their challenges? What are they looking for in a builder? Who are they? Where do they live? Where are they looking to build? What's their price range? What are those items that are at the absolute top of their wish list, or the most important things, and also like, what's their process? So there's a few of these things that I do know that tend to hold true for the building industry. For example, we had a client, a long-term client, over sort of 6-7 year period, a luxury builder here in Melbourne. What we were able to, by running advertising over such a long period of time, is we realized that we set up like a fairly sophisticated CRM system for them. We ran advertising that was actually bringing in like 300-400 leads per month, but most of those leads weren't ready to build. And what we found by building out the CRM system and tracking that over that long period is that the time between their first contact, the first time they became a lead with us, which was downloading some guide or a brochure or sort of, something that they did that got them into our system. The time between that and when they actually engaged our client as a builder, on average, was 2.5 to 3 years.
Yeah.
So, like, insights like that of your audience, of like, okay, from the time that they decide I need to start looking for a builder, and to the time that they actually start saying, okay, I'm ready to talk to that builder now and engage them, is a long period of time. Well, that means, okay, well, what does our ad need to do? What is that customer's journey from the time that they made that first decision to say we need to start thinking about a builder to the time they actually choose one, and what are all the questions that they're trying to find answers to in that period, and how do we communicate with them along that journey so that when they get to the end, we're their preferred builder. And that, when I bring it back to my first point about objectives, well, actually now with that, one piece of knowledge, we have quite a lot of objectives. It's like, okay, well, our customer's going to go on this big journey. The things that we need to provide them first so that they get into our system and they can start getting our communication, getting our emails, doing all these kinds of things. And then, to when we need to say, okay, well, now we need to sell them on trust. So our objective is, how do we demonstrate to someone who already knows about us that we're a really trusted leading brand, or a reputable builder, so okay, that might lead to ads that include great testimonials, hearing from our clients, or walkthroughs, or those kinds of things, to okay, how are we going to actually get them to choose us or get into our display home if we're lucky enough to have one, and those kinds of things. So you can see straight away, that great ad, well, if you've got multiple objectives, then it's that ad is going to communicate to that audience in the way that they want to hear at the right time, with the message and the call to action that is right for their stage in that buying journey. And that's ultimately what we need to do. And that's why I say it ends up being a sort of set of 5 or 6 ads, because each ad is playing a different role, in that sequence of events.
Yeah. You brought up another point that is very important in my mind anyway, having worked with builders, is that I've seen lots of builders, when you mentioned the CRM, so the customer relationship management platform, automation, all of that sort of stuff. In my mind, there is lead generation, and then there is the conversion process. In Black Belt, we call it the quality client pathway, and it's an experience that we put that person through once they make that initial contact, whether it's a phone call, an email, filled out a form, what have you. And you mentioned that CRM, and I just want your thoughts on the importance of that, and how you roll that out for your clients, because I just think that I have seen it so many times where so many builders have just wasted their money, and it's got nothing to do with the agency that they're spending the money with.
Yeah,
the agency's doing a great job of being able to get the leads into the front door, but they are treated so abominably once they get there, or like I've even, know past members that have been in our group where they've spent God knows how much a month on generating leads, and they look at that lead when it comes in and they don't even bother to call that lead back because for some reason they can mind read and that person would be no good, or they're a bit too far away. And then, some months later they're going, oh, we haven't got any work. And it's like, well, I'm not sure what you expect. So I'd love your thoughts on, like, there's the lead generation part of it, but then there has to be this lead nurturing, massaging. I want your thoughts on the timing of it. Like, when a person presses the button to fill out the form, how long until they get a response and it's not a bot, or, at least not obviously. It seems like a proper response. What are your thoughts on all of that?
Yeah, so there's a bit to unpack there. For sure, I think, the first part of that question, how important is a CRM system as a residential builder? I don't think it matters whether you're a one-person operation, or a huge, business. Having a CRM system is absolutely critical.
Yeah, requirement.
Particularly, like I said, if your customer is taking 2-3 years to make a decision, and to choose a builder. You can't manage that nurturing of that lead, to put it in those words, with scrap pieces of paper or your memory or a notepad, right? Like so some sort of system for that is really essential.
Yep.
The other point that I'd make, exactly as that example that I gave earlier of our client, we were getting them 400 leads a month. Well, if you were to measure the performance of those leads over a 30 or even 90-day period, well, 99% of them didn't become a customer in that short period. So it would be really easy to look at that campaign and say, oh, this isn't working. It's failing. Let's turn it off. We've just wasted all this money. To their credit, they didn't do that. And I watched this particular brand. I won't mention who they are, so I can talk a bit more openly, but I watched their average price of their build go from, $1 million to, over $3 million per build, off the back of that ability to nurture those leads, because we were able to build for them that system, and they were able to understand that, these are not good leads, bad leads. These are leads who are ready to build today, and leads that will be ready to build at some point in the future. And, if we can help them throughout that journey, if we can position ourselves as a great brand, if we can be, if we can communicate with them regularly, and and this is what I would say, the luxury of having such a long buying cycle is, wow, we've got 3 years now to convince. We don't have to do this in one ad. We've got 3 years to show them why we are the best choice for them as a builder. Well, great. There's a lot of ways you can do that. Let's start talking to them about finishes and fixtures, and let's start talking to them about the process. Maybe we can even provide some tools that will help them, on their planning process, and educate them on what is a good builder, or maybe not good a builder or a bad builder, but like, what are the important things that they need to consider, when they're making these decisions. And of course, if you're helpful and you're demonstrating your expertise and your knowledge throughout that process, then that's going to enhance the chance that you're ultimately the builder that they choose. And again, we talk about CRM systems and customer relationship management systems, right? But these have evolved a lot. Now they're complete marketing platforms. So, the two that we use and recommend here, which I can mention. So HubSpot, if you've got huge deep pockets, is one of our preferred. And then we've built our own off a platform called High Level, called Wisdom CRM, which is really as fully featured and functional as HubSpot, but for a tenth of the price. And really the reason we push those two CRMs is it's like, well, we love HubSpot, but not everyone can afford it. If you can't afford it, well, we have this other great option. But both of them, and probably any number of others out there now, can do, manage your sales pipeline, manage your leads, as well as send emails, send text messages, build landing pages, have platforms for building out your education resources if that's the way you want to go, have chat widgets for your website, AI-powered bots for taking in some of those front-end, conversations and all those things, and a million other features. So these are really full-featured platforms now that can help to take that, that early lead to a customer. So we're not just dismissing leads as, oh no, they're not right, they're not ready to build, so they're a waste of my time.
Yeah. To pull together a couple of points that you've made early on, you're talking about that generally, builders are a technician. They were a carpenter or whatever, wanted to start their own business. They haven't really had much, if any, education on the business acumen side of it. They're a good builder, but that doesn't necessarily make a good building business, as we find out in the E-Myth Revisited by Michael Gerber. And the other thing, you're talking about 3 years, right? And what's going around in my mind with those 2 points is that, as a rule, I see most builders not put that much emphasis on marketing activity, and like, I encourage you have a marketing budget, and we're big promoters of profit first. So you just add another bank account to it. It's no big deal. Now you've got 20 bank accounts, but you've got to have a marketing budget, then you're putting a percentage of your real revenue away every, month. So you have a budget, and I find that most builders don't do anything or don't get fired up about some marketing activity or effort until it's too late. So they've got a full pipeline. We'll sit on our hands, that's not important. We've got to get these houses built. Then all of a sudden they go, we've got nothing after that job finishes in 2 months. We'd better do something. And 2 months, in my view, isn't long enough. It's just not. And they expect that, well, let's do some advertising now to get some leads now. And it's like, wow, can you do that?
Yeah.
Like, if you've got really, really deep Coca-Cola budget pockets, maybe. But, I mean, so I'd love for you to say what needs to be said here to encourage people to invest time, energy, effort, and money into their lead generation, particularly when they don't need it.
Yeah.
Don't wait until you do.
Well, that, as they say, right, the best time to fix your roof is when the sun's shining. It's exactly the same with, and exactly, that's a very real example. Now, maybe not everyone has a 3-year. That was a very specific luxury builder. Maybe in other segments it's a smaller cycle. It's 1 year or 2 years, but it's a long period. So, the reality is, well, that's when you need to start. If it's a 2-year process, you need to start 2 years ago. For sure, the best time to start your advertising is, when you have the money to pay for it. Yep. So that's good. You're making money. You've got jobs. Things are going well. That's when you want to be doing it. It is definitely far too. I guess it's the same thing as like saying, well, hey, I want a house. I want to build a home, and I need it ready in 2 months. Well, hey, have you started?
Good luck with that.
Well done. Advertising is the same thing. It takes a long time, and it's really interesting. Like that, one of the insights that came out of our recent report, the State of the Nation report that we developed, showed some really interesting things happening in the market right now. So the two interesting facts that came out of that for me around the market is, one, that there has been growth in the number of dwelling commencements, and that's great. I think it went up by 11% in the March quarter. But what fell sharply was the number of approvals in that time.
Wow.
So right now, if you're a builder and you're feeling busy and you've got lots of work on, it's likely that your future pipeline is starting to dwindle because the new approvals are just not coming through. So I think, most builders right now are going to face a period soon where they're going to come into that phase where they need leads and they need them quickly. So, for sure, right now is the time that you want to start thinking about these things, so that you don't find yourself with no work to do in a few months' time.
With the research that you did for the report, just out of interest, was there anything in there that indicated what the gap was in between the application and the approvals, why they were being knocked back?
Yeah, look, I mean, I think, we've taken some inferences from that, and our feeling as an agency is that this is very much speaking to the market and the concerns around cost of living pressures and just the lack of confidence that many people are feeling, and in particular, one of the real tangibles was the particularly high cost of building in Victoria and New South Wales in particular. So for all of these things are coming together to as well as some regulatory issues, I guess, which are always present, which are saying, well, those approval numbers just aren't growing. And so, I guess what we're seeing is some demand. Obviously, once you get your approval right, there's a window of time that you need to operate in. So, we're seeing some of those buildings go ahead, but that future demand is slowing for all those things I mentioned.
Right. So, with all of the information that you've been gathering, what do you think about where to from here? What's your recommendations, suggestions, crystal ball? for the future with builders, like short to medium term? What are your recommendations? What do you think they need to focus on?
Well, like I said, I think what came through really clearly was that there's a definite need that right now is the time, to be thinking about, what is your future strategy? How are you going to be bringing more leads in? Because, I think it's very clear that we're about to enter a period where there's going to be a lot of competition for new business, and exactly that scenario that you mentioned of just suddenly being left there going, oh wow, I don't have any work to do. What am I going to do about it? Could become a reality for many. So, acting right now to get ahead of that is probably the first step for sure. There is a lot of good news though. So one of the other things that we did see is that, outside of New South Wales and Victoria, which have probably, the two regions that are likely to struggle the most, Western Australia, South Australia, and Queensland are all coming into really strong periods. So again, this isn't going to be something that every builder is going to be able to act on. But if you're at a stage where you're starting to think about entering new markets, if you're in New South Wales and Victoria at the moment and you're thinking, okay, maybe we're at that stage where it can start to expand and look for new markets, then those three states are probably, very advantageous, and there could be a great, this could be a great time to sort of move into those markets. So, that's something that came through for sure in the report. And then the other thing, our other report, the SEO analysis of those websites is if more than 80% of websites have no visibility at all. Well, that might be a really good place to start. And we've got some things we can offer your listeners and viewers if you wanted to sort of share that, where we can help to do a more detailed sort of audit of their specific website and show some very tangible ways that they want to grow. For sure, just sort of addressing some of those things is going to be really important.
Yeah. Well, tell us what they are, because that basically preempted my next question, which was going to be that anyway. So you might as well just tell us. I was going to, interested people want to have a chat with you, or where do we get started? Where, best place to catch up with you. But what have you got on offer that is going to help someone get started in that space?
Yeah, I'll share with you lots of links at the end. I'm not huge on social media. I'm not one of those content people that you were talking about. Yeah. But you can connect with me on LinkedIn. So I'll send you the link there. But it's Sam McEwen at LinkedIn. So you can connect there. But look, there's a few things. Obviously, we've got these research papers which are about to come out. So if you're listening to this and you want access to those, I will give you, Mick, the links to those, so that your audience can be the first to see all this and connect with us. So that's really cool. And again, from that SEO side of things, we do charge for detailed SEO audits for website, but happy to offer your listeners a free SEO audit where we'll go a lot deeper and actually look at their specific website, look at the audience that they're trying to attract, see where they're positioned in the market, and come up with some really great actions that they can put into place straight away. So I'll give you a link to a place that people can reach us on that too.
That would be wunderbar. I mean, I just really want to encourage people to get off their ass and do something, particularly after what you've said. It's what I thought anyway. It seems to be an industry norm where most builders wait till it's too late to do anything. We just really need to stop doing that. When, as you say, best time to fix your roof is when the sun's shining. I don't think there is a time, and I say this to all of our black belt members all of the time, because every so often I hear it, our pipeline's full for 18 months, we don't need to do any marketing, and it's like bullshit. Push the gas pedal now. Yeah. Like when you've got 18 months or 2 years in the pipeline, get the gas pedal on and create that oversubscribed business that I just don't have the bandwidth, and I've got wonderful lines of around the block of high quality leads with high quality projects, and everyone's disappointed. I'm disappointed I can't help them. They're disappointed we can't help them. Perfect.
but this is the thing too, like, if you're in that position, you've got you're booked up for 18 months.
Yeah.
It actually unlocks a lot of marketing initiatives that aren't available to the person that needs, if the brief is, I need my advertising to give me business this month, right? That's the hardest marketing brief, to respond to,
Yeah.
and that means that a lot of what you do is going to fail, right? Because it's a tough challenge. Whereas
Yeah.
if the brief is, hey, we have 18 months of solid work, but we want to set ourselves up for the future.
Yep.
We have these growth ambitions. This is where we want to go. What we want to do is start to build a sales and marketing system that's going to mean that we're completely future proof, that we've got great pipelines for the future, and is going to allow us to expand into new markets. That's a brief that marketing can solve. That's a brief that we can work with, where there's almost unlimited options that are going to be effective in various ways. So, and I think that's the other thing, that every discussion changes when you're getting in front of this and you're making those decisions early rather than being panicked and desperate.
As they say in the classics, prevention is better than the cure.
Absolutely.
We just got to get into this stuff, and the time that you're probably least likely to want to do it is the time that you should do it. And what always resonates with me, and I hammer this home in Black Belt all the time, to the chagrin of most of the members with their rolling eyes every time I say it. But, the old Walt Disney quote, he would say, if you want to be successful, look around and see what the world is doing and don't do it.
I love that.
And it's like, this is how most builders manage their money. Don't do it. This is how most builders manage their marketing. Don't do it. It's a really fantastic mindset, I think, or philosophy, because you get rid of a whole lot of things that you don't need to learn by experience. You don't need to do any of those. Everyone else is doing it for you, and it's not working. So you don't need to join that gang, At least look around and see what the other builders are doing. Don't do it. And you've got less things that you need to try, and they'll probably you'll be more successful. So anyway,
I like that. Probably true for all things. Look, the last little thing I'd leave you with then, I guess, is I understand why we get in these situations. And of course, when you're busy, and if you're an owner, you've got a whole lot of other challenges, right? Trying to deal with subcontractors or hire new people, or manage the costs of the jobs that you're running, and all these kinds of things. So the last thing you feel like doing is venturing into some area that you don't really know a lot about. That's really scary, and all these kinds of things. So I understand why we don't make these choices. So probably the piece of advice that I would say is, well, the easiest way to solve that is to make it someone else's problem. Hire someone internally. I'm not saying me, but hire somebody internally who is going to be thinking about these things 12 months of the year. It's their entire responsibility. And set some KPIs for them, and take it off your plate. And again, if you're in a good position where you have been taking profit first, I hear you talk about that often, then you should be in a position where you can say, okay, well, now is the time that we can use some of that profit and hire a marketing role. And I mean, there's lots of fractional marketing managers now as well that experienced marketing people with 15 years experience, that you can get them for a day a week or 2 days a week if you don't really need a full-time marketing person, you don't want to manage them. So there's good solutions, but get one person who actually owns that inside your business one way or another, and then they can engage an agency like us or whatever. But someone who's responsible for those KPIs, I think, will go a long way. Yeah,
and there's a lot to be said about an expert as well. Like what was going through my mind when you said that, have somebody internally, Cliss, who found you and brought us together, and is responsible for us having this conversation today. The majority of her time is massaging the content that I create, the poor girl, and putting it out everywhere. And I often stumble across some of our stuff on socials or whatever, and I go, shit, that's good. And I don't even mean the content. I'm not pissing in my own pocket here. I'm just saying the look and what she's done with the look and the feel of it, and the captions and the music and this. And it's like, I thought I was okay at it when I was doing it myself, but like I am not in the same universe that she is. but she specialises in it. She's, same as you. So we go and we get you in our corner, and this is what you live and breathe and eat and sleep. And so the time that you spend doing that is going to be 50 times more effective than the time that I spend doing it.
Yeah.
And it just, when people go, I can't afford to pay for that or whatever, it's like false economy. You can't afford not to.
That's right.
Right.
Yeah.
Sell
and
one
doing
of
it
your kidneys.
yourself is going to have a significant cost, and all those mistakes and trial and error that you mentioned as well. So
you can always get rid of a kidney in the dark web. It's like, it's all possible.
The thing is, I don't know how to build a house. I certainly don't know how to run a building business. And I know a bit about the industry, but it seems to me that to run a building business is incredibly challenging with a lot of moving parts. And a lot of things changing all the time, every day, and standards and regulations and all those kinds of things. Like, it feels like there's enough to manage there. Hire the right people and give them clear direction of what you want those outcomes to be, and let them excel and do their thing.
Well, 100%. I mean, my dad was a builder. I've been in the building industry as a sub-trade as I grew up. I'm now doing this, and I've been around the joint for a long time, and that's why we do this podcast. That's why Black Belt exists. It's like I have that much respect for builders, because they have to be a psychologist, a babysitter, a mathematician, a rocket scientist, a goat herder. Like, they have to do everything, and they kind of expect themselves to be great at everything, and impossible.
It's too hard.
You got to reach out and allow other people to take the parts of the business that are essential, and put experts in that place, whether it be an agency like yourself or, as you say, employing somebody internally just to specialise in it. Yeah. No. Yeah. Well, check's in the mail. Thank you very much. Thank you very much for being on the podcast. It's been enlightening. Love talking about this sort of stuff. What I appreciate most is just the genuine desire to improve and help the people in the industry, because it's like, it's one of the, as we just said, one of the most challenging industries, and I love discovering people who are out there that have got a focus and a commitment to be able to make the building business or the building industry more effective, more enjoyable, more professional. So it's great to find out of your existence and have a conversation with you.
Well said, and likewise, I couldn't agree more. And it is wonderful. It's a wonderful industry filled with wonderful people doing, trying really hard and doing their best. And so, it's a great industry to be part of. And I'm thrilled to be here chatting to you today. I feel like we could definitely have the extended 4-hour version of this if we had the
two-day version.
So, a real thrill to be on the show, and hopefully we'll speak again soon.
Well, I'm sure we will. Thank you very much for being on the show and sharing your knowledge and your wisdom. It's fantastic stuff. So, folks, that is it for this episode. That was Sam McEwen. We will have all of the links for everything you could ever want in your life in the description to be able to contact Biz Wisdom and have a chat with Sam and start to tap into his some 150 years of experience in the industry. And if you have a look on the website, have a look at all of the companies that they've worked with, you'll recognise quite a lot of them. So they're obviously a very, very successful and effective business. Reach out and have a conversation. We will be back with another episode before you know it. A quick reminder, if you haven't done the Builders Freedom Readiness Scorecard, the link will be in the description. 2 minutes. You'll get some really cool stuff in a report shortly thereafter that will be valuable, and I'm more than happy to help you implement that, or we can have a conversation to point you towards some resources to implement some of those ideas to give you a bit more time and financial freedom in your business. So as I said, we shall be back with another episode. Before you know it, I'm Mick Hawes from Builders Business Black Belt. That is all. I'm out. Bye for now.
You've been listening to the ToolShed. If this podcast struck a chord with you, make sure you spread the word by sharing it with your mates in the building industry. We love your help to make the building industry better for everyone involved.